Hello and welcome to the 27. We are the world's first and only student-teacher podcast on the MCU, where today we dive deep into the traumatic story of Subject 89P13.
Oh, no.
By breaking down and saying goodbye to the Guardians of the Galaxy when we talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 with the one and only Elliot Heath joining us. Welcome,
Hello.
Elliot.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
It is really good for you to be back. You were on last year, I think, Ant-Man. Were you on Ant-Man?
I think it was Ant-Man. Yeah.
I'm always so bad. I never learn my lesson to be prepared with former guests and have my exact list of what they were on. But yeah, you were on with Ant-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Good contributions. We're excited to have you back.
Mm-hmm.
We have many, we have many shining stars here at Townsend Harris. It's a community of wonderful people,
That's
teachers, students. But Elliot, you're right there at the top of that list in terms of shining stars. We are an editor-in-chief of the Classic, our award-winning, excellent newspaper. And there's been a lot of other things going on with you. So let's see. Let's break it down. You are a senior, a few weeks away from graduating.
Yes.
Next year,
Yes.
college will be at?
Columbia University.
Excellent. Congratulations. That was an early decision, early action.
Yes.
You went early there?
Early decision, yeah.
Excellent. So that was taken care of early.
Yeah.
Cleared it.
Very, a lot of relief there
Yeah.
in December. It was good to know early.
And that was your number one? That was where you wanted to go?
Yeah. So it was between Columbia and Yale for
Okay.
a while.
Yeah.
And then I just decided, Columbia's number one.
Excellent. Well,
and
congratulations on that.
It worked out, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And then
thank you.
checking out the Classics Instagram page. I saw you also were recently awarded was a journalism award, was it? You want to tell us about that?
Yeah. I saw you commented on it.
I did.
But basically, I was researching scholarships, because college is expensive, and there was this journalism scholarship that I got an email notification about from a network of emails that I'm in for these kinds of things. And basically the Deadline Club, which is the New York chapter of the Society of Journalists or something, I think that's the name of it.
Yeah.
They have a $2,500 scholarship for undergraduate and graduate college students.
That's
and
awesome.
It was in the fine print, at the very bottom of the website that said if you're a graduating senior in high school, you can also apply to the undergraduate.
Okay.
And I was why not?
Get that money.
Yeah, and it worked out, and I was awarded the scholarship, which was I was not expecting. It was really awesome.
Yeah.
And they invited me to this ceremony that was sort of like an award, like a Golden Globes type thing.
Yeah.
At the Harvard Club.
Wow.
And I got a free admission, and then my co-editors-in-chief, Kate and Jana, and Mr. Sweeney all went with me.
That's awesome.
So it was kind of a surreal experience because it was real journalists were there that I talked to.
Yeah.
From Chalkbeat, Wall Street Journal, ABC, all these places. So it was a really cool experience.
Very cool. Did Jana just bust in with her sweatshirt to the Harvard Club and say that she belongs there?
Oh yeah, she has been there before. She kind of gave us the rundown of the building.
Yeah.
But
very cool. And then finally we had our Humanities Symposium, which is always so impressive. I try to tell people about it, and even I do work on with the school leadership team here and telling parents you should come and check this thing out because it's so impressive.
Yeah.
And you were successful there yesterday as well. You wanna?
Yeah. So I've been pretty passionate about the symposium this past semester. Our project was on the caregiving elements in HBO's Succession and William Shakespeare's King Lear.
Nice.
Which are two kind of related texts, but also very, in some ways very, very different, being from different centuries and settings. But we, as of recording yesterday, we received the award for best presentation.
Awesome.
So I'm glad about that.
Congrats. And I wonder would that still be? I know it was live streamed on the Classic YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's uploaded.
Well.
Yeah, so it's we went on day 2 at around the 3-hour mark in the recording.
So go check that out. You're everywhere, man. You're all over the place. Well, good stuff. And maybe most importantly, all those are impressive. But you noticed it when you came in. This is
Oh yes.
First of all, actually, the bigger thing is this collaboration with the Classic and the 27. This is your baby. This was your idea. back when you were my student in A-Push. You were right on that.
Yeah, yeah. I figured, you hosting this podcast
Yeah.
would be a great thing for, to be sort of part of the classic.
There you go.
We have multiple podcasts, and I feel like this fits right in.
Right in. And then this was wasn't this a project too? Didn't you have this for like a presentation or something?
Oh,
you did?
yes.
Yeah.
I remember that now. AP Lit, we had a presentation about, like, I don't know, Jekyll and Hyde cultural influences or something like that.
And it's become
And
an
I brought that
enduring
in.
piece of the set from day
Yeah.
one. So there it is. Well,
I have not taken it home since.
I know it's literally been
yeah.
here. Well, I think maybe we can run through the rest of the season and return it to
Oh,
its
no, I
rightful
think
owner.
I have another one at home, so I can
Perfect.
just.
You're good.
This will be
just-
my
yeah.
donation
Oh, wow.
to the school.
We appreciate that. Well, we are here to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yes.
Came out about 3 weeks ago. I've noticed that there's a Marvel movie that comes out the first Friday in May, which is also generally when the AP US exam is. So last year, Doctor Strange came out. I don't know if it happens the year before that. I wasn't paying attention. But I have noticed it the past 2 years. This came out 3 weeks ago. They're all back, all the Guardians. We know them well.
We do.
And this is it. There's a clear, saying goodbye to at least this group. A few of them, I know Zoe Saldana and Dave Bautista have said they are done making Marvel movies, so they won't be returning. But we get a sense of also of almost a new Guardians group developing. We get the idea that Star-Lord will be back at some point.
It says in the closing credits.
I have to admit something. I did not stay till the end.
Oh no!
So here's why. I brought my 2 kids
Okay.
to a 7:00 show on this past Tuesday night.
Oh.
And by the time we got to the end, my
He was
younger guy was cooked. And
I
I heard
that.
it was also an extra long run to get to the final,
Yeah, we had to wait
a
a
while
while
to get to the end. So I was like, you know what? I can check the internet. I saw the mid-credit scene, and I had heard that it was basically just a little bit of a snapshot of him on Earth. And that he'll be returning at some point.
He just visits he's basically with his grandfather eating cereal, and it says, on the screen, Star-Lord will return. So we got that assurance.
Yeah, so looking forward to those. And look, there's still so much more down the line. Multiple Avengers.
Absolutely.
As we look into this, doing a little bit more research, because I'm still woefully ignorant of the back, the comics of this. Actual stories. I just know the movies. But it sounds like, the future Avengers will be featuring, whether it be this kind of new incarnation of the Guardians or Star-Lord, which I think is one of the things I like about the Guardians, is that they're almost I don't know if Swiss Army knife is the right way to say it. They can just kind of be dropped in and be used in different things.
Yeah, and that's what I like about Guardians of the Galaxy. It's sort of, I think they can go well with sort of any group. Obviously, they were in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yep.
They were in the Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame.
Yeah.
I think they're just a good group of characters in general, which is why I was I was anticipating a lot what would happen with the third iteration of the main movies.
Yeah. So then where do you end up on this? Did you like this? Were there any highlights for you? Or, what's your overall impression of this one?
So overall, I think it was a bit of a quality drop from what I remember in the past Guardian movies. Now, placed in the context of Marvel, I think it's Phase 4 or Phase 5 that we're on.
Phase 5 now.
Phase 5.
Yeah.
My friend was telling me, and they've seen more recent Marvel films that are other Phase 5. They told me after I saw it with them that that it was that comparatively this movie was really good. That Guardians 3 was really good, but I don't know. We have different sort of points of comparison for it, but overall, I'd say I did like it in terms of the overall sort of structure. I like the characters. I think they're the main drivers of the plot, but I think I definitely had some problems with it.
So I think it's interesting. I was talking about this with Miss Nakos before, and it's exactly what your friends had said, which is compared to these other ones, which have not been good. And I think even the TV shows that I've watched, just nothing's been of that high quality. And I think they're just going to struggle in general post Endgame to try to rediscover that magic or the momentum that built up to Endgame, came to this conclusion, and then you really do. There's a restart, you had this
The blip.
whole string of movies.
Yeah.
It is almost like its own blip, right?
Yeah.
And the idea of like this was, about 27 movies, our namesake here, give or take. That's a big buildup. And now we're about, whatever it is, 3 or 4 or 5 into this. So maybe it gets there, but they haven't gotten off to a good start. I still haven't seen Quantumania. And part of that is I haven't heard good things about it.
I haven't
either. It hasn't
really,
I haven't had that real drive to see it, because I like Thor, but Love and Thunder was fine, but it was it wasn't good, right? It was fine. You could be entertained by it, but it fell into that trap of I think trying to recreate Ragnarok with the humor, but then it was just too wacky and silly. This, I think, has the advantage of just naturally the Guardians, they're funny, right? They have that aspect. They have the banter. They have the interactions with each other. So they're already living in that world. Whereas Thor isn't necessarily, although it did develop into that over the 4 movies. But I would definitely agree that comparatively. So I've had a tough time pinning down exactly how good this is. Is it good? Because overall I liked it, but is it on its own standalone good, or is it, as you said, comparatively good to the other movies that have come out?
Yeah, and that's, I mean, to address the first part of what you said, that is going to be a really, a really big challenge for Marvel to be able to recuperate after Endgame. And it's honestly, I'm not sure that they're going to be able to do it to at least to the same level that they did before, but I mean, at least I don't feel like it's the end of the world. After all, over an 11-year period, they made such a well interwoven plot across so many movies. So I think they should be the creators should be proud of that first and foremost. But in terms of the Guardians, I feel like sort of with Love and Thunder, I thought it was fine, but it wasn't anything really special.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, and I like Volume 2 a lot as well. Those stood out, I feel like.
No doubt. One I love from doing it last year, that ended up every time at the end of each episode I would slot whatever we just did into a list, and Guardians was up there for a long time. I didn't like 2 as much. Just even the story with, I feel like it was a lesser version of the first one, which is still better than some, but I think the first one set a pretty high bar. I would slot this one above the second one, clearly below the first one, but closer to the second than it is to the first. What were some of the things you did like about it?
That I did like about the movie?
Yeah.
So I liked the fight scenes, I guess, is the first thing that comes to mind. It was just a lot of people just come to Marvel movies just for the action-packed nature of it, which isn't a bad thing. And the fight scenes definitely here were reminiscent of older Marvel movies, older past Guardians of the Galaxy films. I liked the ending. I think I was satisfied with the ending.
Yeah, I would agree.
After all of it, I think it was a good decision to have them sort of certain people split up, move on from it, certain characters, while others sort of stayed on. And meanwhile, there were others who stayed on the planet. Is it nowhere? Nowhere.
Yep, the head of the Celestial.
Yeah, exactly. To sort of found foster this new society.
Yeah.
I am satisfied with the ending, and I think that's in terms of how movies go. I think ending it is always a big part. So I am very assured that the ending was good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I specifically like the ending for Drax. That it kind of is this full circle. He becomes Drax the Destroyer after Thanos kills his wife and his daughter, and now he's like a dad again.
He's a parent.
He brings them in. He's kind of the parent of all these children. So I like that from it. And I mean, Dave Bautista's great. That character's great. That character always just makes me laugh. The delivery, the lines.
Absolutely,
it always, even if it's not a giant laugh, it's just there's something about his delivery that always gets me. And then Star-Lord going back home and the reunion with the grandfather and being able to have a life on Earth. He left when he was so young and connected, or was taken when he was so young. And just always having that connection of Earth was always just this place where he lost his mother at this young age, and that he even though he was kidnapped, that he didn't want to go back to. I thought the fight scenes were good as well. The one in particular in Orgoscope and like that.
Oh
that
yeah. Oh, that was
tissue-y-
really weird.
Which that alone, I'll talk about that in
Yeah,
a second.
I
But
have
that,
things to say as
the
well.
fights there, like the camera angles were really good. It was almost like coming in on the side, or like just the way it was shot was really good. And the fights were good there. The fight scene at the end almost felt too standalone or something, where it was just like, okay, we need to just have this one big blowout fight at the end that didn't necessarily.
Yeah.
Not that it didn't move it along, but at the end of the day, what was like going to get us to the conclusion was getting all of them off the ship, getting into nowhere, and then resolving it that way. But I would agree with that. Sorry, you were going to say?
Oh no, I 100% agree about the last fight scene. It kind of just like it just happened.
Yeah.
And then it's like, it seems like the point of the fight scene was just to have a fight scene.
Agreed, 100%.
But that being said, it was a good quality fight scene.
Yeah.
Yes,
I would agree with that. So then this Orgoscope, whether it's not
that
even
was
a
so
planet as much,
weird.
it's almost like it's an industry. It's like where these records were kept. It was
I
gross to
don't-
look at.
Yeah.
Just the tissue-y nature, the gooiness of it all. It seems unnecessary. I don't know,
Yeah.
visually, like, I don't know.
I have many qualms with just the I don't know, just design elements of this show. At first, I actually did think that the stuff of like flesh was cool, but then it was so overdone, and it was just like it's just like unnatural to look at that sort of thing. And also, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, but the sort of super evolved animal anthropomorphized beings.
Yeah.
That was so weird.
It was weird, very like Island of Dr. Moreau, like no, it was strange. It was off-putting, especially because like it just kept popping up, whether it was when the high evolutionary, when they were trying to create them in those kind of cases, to then being on the planet. Like, you could have probably designed something that was a little bit more attractive, or not as off-putting. They were off-putting to look at. I did kind of like that on this like alternative Earth, that like things were still kind of the same, like the households with the family pictures and the counter-Earth. Yeah, like, but yeah, they were off-putting, visually kind of off-putting. Yeah, those anthropomorphic beings. I also did not like the security guards at the Orgoscope, those big, like, bulky orange suits.
They just
like,
had, what were those?
They looked like
didn't
rock
even know.
suits almost, but they weren't. So, yeah, didn't appreciate anything much that was going on there. But the fight scene, as we said, the fight scene was good. I mean, on the negative side, like, I think, as we talked about with our buddy Thanos here, I think they struggle with the villains.
I was going to say that, yeah.
Like, they're dropping these people in, and I don't know if they just need more time to develop. Like, Thanos is someone you, like, he pops up in, like, first in, like, I want to say a post-credit scene in one of the movies.
Does.
And then it's just this, like, drip feed of who this Thanos is until all of a sudden it's Thanos.
And then it was actually Guardians of the Galaxy where he actually started to become a villain.
Yeah. And then just how giant he is. I mean, just even the Funko Pop. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Look at
compared
the
to
relative,
everyone else, right?
Yeah.
And then just everything that goes into Thanos. So I think, one, they have this challenge of, much like we talked about with the movies in general, specifically with the villain, they have to live up to this titan, pun intended, of a villain. This high evolutionary, like, how bad is he? Animal cruelty, totally. God complex, yes. But other than that, I don't know. Didn't do much for me.
I actually thought that the villain was just a bit overdone, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, think about it. The goal of this villain is basically he thinks that the Earth or life or whatever is imperfect, and he wants to make it perfect by doing like weird experiments on people and animals.
Yeah.
Like, haven't we seen that so many times before? We've seen that with
true.
Thanos. Stranger
Yeah,
Things.
it was. Yeah,
I was thinking of
searching
Stranger
for a more
Things.
perfect version of humanity.
It's just an overdone villain. Like,
Yeah.
I just didn't really
That's a
like
really good
the
point.
villain. Yeah.
And then, like, he's just continually failing at it, too. Like, we see that, like, this counter-Earth.
Yeah.
And I did kind of like that, like, when they're driving to, like, the headquarters or whatever it is, that it's, like, it still has problems. There's drug dealing, there's fights, there are these things.
That was one of the realistic things that I sort of liked that they addressed that.
And then, like, he now has this future generation of whatever better beings that he's ready to roll out. So I think that's definitely, like, one of these issues. I've seen people, describe it as like a nightmare for PETA or the ASPCA with the animal
Yeah.
cruelty, which I think was heavy-handed, especially like it was so over the top with like, we're so happy we have friends. It's
Yeah,
like,
it was
they're
just
clearly gonna die in some
dark.
horrible way.
Yeah.
Um, it was a lot. Side note, totally made my younger kid cry, which maybe that's a dad
yeah.
issue. So as you bring, like, I knew it was going to happen. I didn't see any spoilers, but I'm like, it's the backstory of Rocket. We know he was
It's
tortured.
very sad.
So, like, there's
Yeah.
going to be something bad there. But as happens with many kids, and you might remember this, maybe you did it when you were very young, or you'll see it in your children in the future. He was very brave when we were watching the movie. He wasn't sad. And then when he went to bed with mom that night, he lost it.
Yeah.
He's like, he didn't get to go live with his friends. I was like, yeah,
That's
but he
really
was
sad.
going to. He's going to live with them someday. But again, that's more. Look,
No.
maybe I shouldn't be bringing my 8-year-old to it, but that
I
he
mean,
wants to see the movie.
Still, it's. I mean, this is. I feel like Marvel needs to take into account sort of their, like, target audience a little bit with
and
that.
it was just like a little gratuitous with the animal. But
Yeah.
But it does. I will say it gives good context to Rocket. Like you always learn about Rocket and like his background being this terrible thing, and it truly was, and it kind of helps fully explain like kind of who he was.
It was a movie about Rocket, essentially.
Yeah.
I do want to say, like, quickly to play devil's advocate with it a little bit. Guardians of the Galaxy kind of has always had like very dark themes, like Quill's mom dying of cancer.
Yeah.
Just mentions of pretty heavy-handed stuff that I haven't seen in
True.
some other Marvel superhero movies. That being said, though, I do agree that this kind of was a little to a bit more than what was really needed in this one.
I guess that is true. Even if you look at all their individual stories, we just talked about Drax losing his family. Talked about
Gamora and her sister.
Gamora and Nebula are like kidnapped and tortured by Thanos. So like they all do kind of have that negative thing there. We got Mantis up here. Where is she? There's
yes.
Mantis. I like seeing her. I like the character. That again, I think the strength of this is the group, the cast, the writing for each of them individually, the writing for them as a group. I think she has a bigger role there, and I think she does an excellent job. I mean, Bradley Cooper. Two things with Rocket. Obviously, it's his CGI and its voice acting.
Yeah.
Both are excellent. Like even like the zoom in at the beginning on his face, and then the baby raccoons.
The Creep by Radiohead stuff.
Yeah. Well, and then of course the music. But Bradley Cooper, just for voice acting, really, really excellent. And of course, I mean, what really drives all these movies is the music. The soundtracks are always so good.
Sort of like oldies, sort of hits. Like,
and then this one brings it in. That first one with the original mixtape is definitely that like 70s, 80s type that's still there. But we see Radiohead, we see Florence and the Machine. There's a few more kind of modern groups brought in here. So that will always be a strength of it. I can't even imagine just the money to get the rights to these songs. Because first of all, it's like a lot of songs. It's not just like one or two. It's really different songs that carry the movie throughout. So that, to pay for those.
Marvel's definitely pulling a lot in there with like that coupled, imagine with the CGI and all the sci-fi stuff.
Exactly.
This movie probably cost,
a lot.
A fortune.
A lot. It'll be interesting to see. I didn't look that up. It's funny. I did that last season because just doing the background, it would always be like, how much money did it make? How much money did it cost? I haven't looked at that, though. We haven't done many movies this year. Okay, so let's talk about this. New York Times review.
Yep.
Goes through it. You read it. I read it. It ends with this. I'll read the quote. But pumping soundtrack aside, after a breakout hit and the sequel, Everything Would Have Been Fine If Your Dad the Space God Played Catch With You, the movie, this final piece of the trilogy makes one thing apparent. Guardians was just a one-hit wonder. Your thoughts, Elliot?
First of all, that Times review was mean, for lack of a better term. Like very, very biting commentary about it. I wouldn't go so far as to say that personally. I feel like I like Guardians. I think they're a good group of people. Good, or not people, but beings and
superheroes,
and anything.
Beings, all of it.
I think that it's the franchise, despite this one having definitely some hiccups. It has a lot of potential still. there probably won't be a volume 4, but whatever form that.
Whatever they come in, we're kind of introduced
Yeah.
there. So we have Groot, we have Rocket, we have I always mean to write these things. Adam Warlock is the like gold guy.
I was confused about him for a while
Yeah.
over the course of the movie, and then I did some research on the background.
Because they pop up, him and his mother.
Yes, his
pop
mother.
up at, I think they're the post-credit scene in Guardians 2. These like kind of gold people who like you're kind of introduced to. Yeah, I saw some comparisons to him and Vision. The idea that they were these like fully formed adults when they were made, but hadn't lived long, so they were like immature. They were
Yeah.
like childish, but fully formed in terms of like being grown.
I get that.
And then we got a couple other. We got our new whistle arrow guy.
Yeah, that
names.
But he was the apprentice of Yondu.
Yes, exactly. And, which was also, I think that was good. Yondu makes a little appearance there, and yeah, I think that was another good part there. But yeah, so we see there will be this future iteration of the Guardians in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm. But sorry. For one thing, the apprentice of Yondu, again, I forget his name as well. I didn't think he was that like interesting of a character personally. Like, it was a relatively small part of the movie, so it wasn't too big of a problem that I had. But just like him and like the dog, I just didn't really think that plot line really had much to it. I don't even know where the dog came from, honestly.
The dog was in something else.
Was it the holiday special?
So the dog was in the holiday special, and I wonder if the dog was also in The Collector. You know, The Collector was like Benicio del Toro plays The Collector. Like,
yeah.
I believe the dog was in The Collector, as was Howard the Duck. Do you know Howard the Duck?
I think Howard the Duck is in that universe.
Yes,
right?
and he's playing. So he's in the collector's warehouse or whatever. And then when they're playing cards or when they're doing something, Howard the Duck is there. Howard the Duck was a movie that came out in like 1986 about this like duck who's like clearly comes from another universe and like lives amongst humans. Very like
interesting.
It's not a kid. Like when it came out, I was of like kid age, and it was like, oh, like this, like kind of like live action duck, but it's definitely not a kids movie. But Howard the Duck is in there as well. I think Cosmo came from that. I'm not gonna lie, we might get another dog. We have a dog now. Might name it Cosmo. Cosmo is a decent name for a dog anyway. But I would agree with you, kind of just like this extra kind of piece to it. I mean, when it goes to the Times article and the quote at the end, I just generally disagree with it. I think this movie is overall a good movie, as we talked about, especially in comparison to the other Phase 5 movies. Big picture, Guardians are essential to this whole thing, right? They are huge, major role in Infinity War and Endgame, which are the movies of the previous, whatever it was. I never know my phases, Phase 3, Phase 4, whatever it was. And then, again, we talked about popping up in Love and Thunder. And I think what I loved... Okay, so this is a big one. We noticed that Groot speaks at the end. And he says, he doesn't say, I am Groot. He says, I love you guys. So he actually... We were watching it. I said I was with my younger son. And he was like kind of asking me something. And then I hear this Groot voice that says, I love you guys. And
wow.
then I turn to my other son and I go, did Groot just talk? And he's like,
wow.
I think so. So we looked it up, and this is one of the reasons. This is my final piece for why I like this movie. So James Gunn confirmed that Groot did not actually say those words. He said, "I am Groot." But we have spent so much time with the Guardians that we now understand Groot. That the way everyone who is close to him, when he says, "I am Groot," and everyone knows what he's saying. Now we know what he's saying because we have spent so much time with the Guardians over these movies.
Wow, what a development.
Yeah, so I love that. And I think that does speak to it. So in terms of like being on the journey, the 3 movies, the other appearances, if you throw them all in, we're talking about 6 movies essentially, maybe other appearances as well. The holiday special, which I thought was good, we reviewed it earlier in this year with the Tomato Meter folks. So I'm going to disagree with this. I'm not saying this is like a great movie. I'm not saying it's a, that the Guardians are the greatest thing ever, but I like the Guardians, and I think this does a good job, especially as you mentioned with the end of wrapping up the story, tying up some loose ends, and then also potentially moving us forward. So I would disagree with our snarky New York Times
Yes.
critic, but I would also say the line about describing Guardians 2, everything you would have been fine if your dad, the space god, played catch with you, the movie.
Yeah.
I
It's
get it.
that
I
is some
appreciate
truth.
that snark a little bit.
Yeah.
though. So yeah, I think that's where we are. I'm good with this. I enjoyed it. It was a good night out with the boys. And yeah. Overall,
I'm glad I
I'm
saw
good.
it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think we did it, Elliot.
Yeah.
Any final things? Any words of wisdom? I imagine this is your last time joining us as we barrel towards your closing out your time here at Townsend Harris.
That's true. I don't have much time left. I would say that don't judge a movie by its reviews or by its New York Times review because everybody has their own opinions on media, and we can all learn to appreciate it, whether it's sci-fi, fantasy, realistic fiction, Marvel or not. I think that it's just good to appreciate movies and talk about that.
Wise words. An excellent place to end. We are the 27. You can find us on Instagram at the 27 THHS. We're on the Classic YouTube channel. We'll be up there shortly. We have, one of the kings of the classic here. So make sure you check that out. All of our older episodes. You also host, what is it called? The
Admitted, yes.
I heard Sarah Robb is going to be on it. Is she?
We're contacting her right now, yeah.
So I didn't realize she wrote her essay about a project she did in my class.
Really?
She created this book in our honors class. She wrote a book, story and all, illustrated it. It was crazy. It was remarkably well done. And she was like, I think I might be on this podcast. I'm going to talk about my essay. So anyway, go check that out. You've done 3 episodes so far? No, Axel was on it.
4.
Madeline was on it.
I'm not sure if the 4th is...
Rebecca was on it.
I think we've done 4. We recently released Justin. Justin's on.
Okay.
Yeah. Who is also going to be at Columbia. So it was great filming with him. But yeah, you can find all of that on the Classics YouTube channel. Subscribe.
Go check that all out. We're not done with this school year. We got Quantumania. We got She-Hulk, Miss Marvel. We're getting Mr. Schwab on to talk about the X-Men.
Ooh.
Which is like, as the X-Men creep into the MCU. And
yeah, I was going to say, they're kind of
apart. I think they're moving towards, and also maybe that's part of like trying to like build up these future phases, is that maybe some injection of characters known and loved, and also, really strong characters might help with that. So we'll be doing that as well. Big thanks to Irene, our producer, for doing all the wonderful work for us. Rajvi for being a wonderful film editor, and you, Elliot, for coming on. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me. It was great to be here.
Absolutely. And we will see everyone next week on the 27th. Take care.
Bye.